The attorney for the Environmental Improvement Board is in an office where one of the senior deputies doubles as the president of the law firm opposing this. So I think I've raised this question, and I think the Attorney General's office probably has to recuse itself from this. I've investigated this. They established no Chinese walls
and that's
to
what's supposed to
exclude
happen,
Stuart Bluestone.
Formally
I don't know how exactly. I don't no efforts were made to seal Mr. Bluestone off at all from this environmental improvement Improvement Board counseling or activism. None whatsoever. That's very strange to have a deputy attorney general being the president of a law firm that sues the state of New Mexico and appears at administrative hearings numerous times.
And then gives it legal counsel as to how to move
forward. But he also
and
participates. Here's the thing. He participates on the other end. Western Environmental Law Center. So he's number 2, number 3 with the Attorney General. Sees everything in the office. And then he goes to the Western Environmental Law Center where he's president, and I've attempted to see if they have established it, if they've sealed him off in any way. No evidence. So he has confidential information from inside the Attorney General's office, and then he is president of the law firm that is opposing the interest of so many people in New Mexico that are represented by the Attorney General. Very strange circumstances.
Well, we've got a few more left. John Horning and Leland Gould. Are any of those?
John Horning is head of what has been considered one of the most radical environmental groups in New Mexico for a long time. That is the Wild Earth Guardians, formerly known as the Forest Guardians. They do some good work. I've complimented them for their tree planting. That's the kind of thing I think who can object. That's great stuff. But they are also part of that biocentric, almost. They're again one of the most radical environmental groups in the state. They have completely bought into the anthropogenic global warming advocacy school. They've taken positions on it. John Horning once again is compromised because he comes from an organization, heads an organization, is employed by an organization that he has already put on record as supporting these policies.
Wow, fantastic. And Leland Gould?
Leland Gould is from the New Mexico Oil and Gas Association, and he has a completely different conflict of interest. He represents people that are opposed to this rule, that have already taken a position on the other side of the issue. So, don't accuse me of just being anti-environmentalist here, and taking cheap shots at him. This individual from the Mexico Oil and Gas Association has no business sitting on this matter either.
His impartiality is totally questioned.
He's not objective. He's not impartial. They're suing the Environmental Improvement Board to stop this, and then he's sitting on the board. He has to recuse himself. So,
fantastic.
The summary is there is no way the citizens of New Mexico, that the general public interest is going to get a fair and objective hearing on this matter. Only 2 of the members of this board do not suffer from more than a reasonable basis. Some might say a conclusive basis to question their objectivity and impartiality. By their own words and actions, their financial ties, they have shown their judgment is utterly compromised. What that means is there's not a quorum on this.
Right.
And that if this is to be considered, it has to be considered by the next board, who hopefully won't. I mean, it's pretty appalling that people got appointed this way.
I think
amazing. Governor Richardson knew what he was doing. This is an 8-year plan.
It was a fait accompli.
Not a fait accompli. It's a long-term plan to stack the deck. I think it's a foregone conclusion what they're going to do here. They're going to rule on this. And then they get to go off to their environmental conferences and stand up to their colleagues and peers and funders and say, I'm a hero, look what I did for you guys.
Declare victory. Well, have these people been confronted about these conflict of interest on the record?
Yes. But oddly enough, the industry's been reluctant to raise these issues.
Really?
The attorneys are rather squeamish about raising it because, well, some of them may not have much of a fight inside them, I fear. But I think it's because they realize they have to come back in front of the EIB on some other matters.
Okay.
So if they take them on, if you have a utility that repeatedly appears in front of the EIB and they take these people on, then their lawyers are worried they're going to alienate, to put it lightly, people who have to consider them next time around.
And they're going
so they
to be
have
facing considerable
right. They might face
problems.
retaliation the next. So they haven't raised the issue yet. I think it's mind-boggling that they haven't done this. A group that doesn't fear that has, and that's the organization that funds my work, the Rio Grande Foundation. At the hearing in March, what was called the public hearing, Paul Gessing, who's the president of the Rio Grande Foundation, got up and challenged all of those people challenged the conflicts of interest of Gregory Green, James Gaughan, and Gay Dillingham. John Hoying and Gould were not on the board at the time. And demanded that they follow the rule that requires their recusal. And they sort of looked at him, didn't do anything, and nobody's taken any action on it.
Wow. Well, if they refuse to recuse themselves, can they be forced off the board? What actions would have to be taken?
I'll tell you. First of all, I think what has to happen is that an individual who has made an appearance before the EIB, that is somebody who has entered an appearance, that could be one of the trade groups, industry groups, an employer. There's a lot of people that have entered an appearance. They have to move. They have to file a motion to force the EIB to recuse itself. Otherwise, I think they waive the issue. I think they waive the issue, and they're giving it away. Why would you give it away? Why wouldn't you want to ensure that on an issue of this magnitude, at the very least, you have an impartial and objective board?
Yeah.
I've talked to some of those people, and they know it's stacked against them. They know they're not going to get a fair shot, so why don't they demand that the EIB follow the law?
Well, has the governor of New Mexico reacted to any of these charges? Has he?
Well, he's the one who stacked the deck.
Right, of course.
He knew exactly what he was doing.
Right.
I mean, it's inconceivable. I think it would have been inconceivable for any other governor to appoint the head of Wild Earth Guardians, the environmental improvement board.
Only him would.
I mean, Wild Earth Guardians is, in many respects, against all the industries in this state. It's against any productive use by mankind of the earth in many respects.
Wow.
That's a bit of an overstatement, but not too far off the mark.
So what would happen if the EIB isn't? We know the EIB is tainted. What would happen if they do they impose the New Mexico cap and trade, and then later on we find out that their decision is tainted? Can the decision be vacated, or is there some mechanism for that?
I just told you that. I think the issue will be waived and forever given up unless it is raised in a motion by the parties presently before the EIB.
Okay. Can it be done after the decision is made to impose the cap, or is there some...
I'm telling you, I think that if they don't raise it now, I think they're waiving it. Wow. Because then the court's going to say, wait a minute, you knew all along, Mr. P&M lawyer, that the board was tainted, that the board was utterly compromised by conflicts of interest. So you went through all this trouble, all the hearings, all the effort, time, and expense, and now you're telling me, sir? Yeah. You wait. That's what waiver means.
Okay.
I think courts would look disfavorably on that unless it is raised now.
I see. Is this politics as usual for New Mexico?
No, it's unusual politics for New Mexico. As I'm telling you, we have never seen the stacking of the EIB like this. These environmentalists, and I've talked to a few of them who have these problems, go, well, this is no worse than what when industry's on the board. So because what they're saying that the board was compromised before, so this is just sort of tit for tat. Now it's our turn to be corrupt. It is. It's our turn, and that's not how it's been before. Really? We have not seen the EIB manipulated in such a way to advance a pretty radical policy objective of a governor who's going to be leaving this state. And I think not only the office, I think he'll be leaving the state here in a few months. And his legacy, and he's mentioned, he wants this as his legacy, and he's going to ram it through. This is unprecedented.
So we're talking about then his legacy. He wants to be the El Jefe, the green Jefe. So we're talking the EIB cap and trade would be one
a whole bunch
feather
of
in his cap,
everything.
The Rail Runner and
Solar Valley. I mean, all these initiatives. But I think his legacy will be long-term damage to the New Mexico economy and losses to our permanent funds from which we will never recover.
Jim, I thank you very much. Appreciate it. We thank you for coming. I hope to see you on the radio show or hear you on the radio show here pretty much. And
well, I got a free tan out of this.
There you go. It's not getting any cooler. Jim, thank you very much.
Okay, my pleasure.
Take care. Thank you.